Well, friends, welcome back to the third StewTube in a series of I don't know how many, but we're going to keep on doing them because people are reporting how helpful it is to get me into their lounge rooms or their churches in this way. Mind you, I'd also be very pleased to receive a personal invitation to your group or to your church. I want to commend you as a diocese for getting behind the Back to Church Sunday program. It has been a runaway success. Do you know across Australia 600 churches participated in the program and 12,000 people came back to church on September the 13th. And we've had some brilliant stories from our own diocese. I love the one which took place in a rural community where the pastor, the priest, came around the corner and instead of seeing Zimmer frames and walking frames, he saw bicycles parked and he knew that something of a minor miracle had taken place. As a result of Back to Church Sunday, people have continued in coming to our churches. We're very excited to report stories of people putting their hands up for baptism or for confirmation, and the apology that you gave was well received. People who've been hurt or disenfranchised for a variety of reasons have felt loved and accepted, and your heartfelt apology has made all the difference in their lives. So we're going to run with Back to Church Sunday next year, but I want to challenge you using the principles of Back to Church Sunday, that is, praying for people and inviting them along to church, to have a go this Advent. As we prepare for Christmas, can I urge you to be praying for friends and neighbours and to be offering them a genuine and loving invitation back to church this Christmas? Wouldn't it be brilliant if we could repeat the same kind of things that took place on September the 13th, on December the 24th and 25th? I commend that program to you. I'm also really excited about the new appointment for the CEO of Anglicare. Mr. Peter Sanderman from the Diocese of Adelaide, he is currently the CEO of the Diocese of Adelaide, has accepted our appointment, our approach to become the General Manager or the CEO of Anglicare here in Canberra and Goulburn. Now, Peter is a very, very capable leader. He's been involved in advocacy and justice issues. He's worked with some of the major groups across Australia in this area, and he's also got experience in aged care. So we welcome Peter to the diocese. He'll start probably in January, and I do hope that you'll make contact with him, invite him to your churches. It'd be marvellous if, as a diocese, we could make Peter feel like he's a part of our family, and certainly Anglicare is a big part of our family, and we want to welcome Peter and his wife to our diocese. I'm also very excited about a partnership that we formed with the Diocese of the Northern Territory by way of sending Tom Slockey to the Northern Territory. Tom, as you know, is a brilliant Aboriginal minister, a gifted pastor and leader, and Tom is being sent by our diocese to the Northern Territory to become their very first canon missioner. Now, to make this possible, not only do we need to be praying for Tom, but I am looking for 7 groups or churches or individuals to commit to a gift of $5,000 per year for 3 years to enable Tom's ministry to continue. Now, they can't do it without us, and on faith, I'm asking you and trusting you as a diocese to support me in this as we work with Bishop Greg and his team in the Northern Territory to facilitate Tom's ministry. Tom's done a great job down at the meeting place in Mogo, and we're going to miss him greatly, and we need to pray that God will raise up a new leader for that work as well. So Tom and Muriel will begin work in the Diocese of the Northern Territory early next year, so I'm asking you to help. I'm asking you to pray. It may well be you who can make a very significant contribution to ministry in that part of the world as well. Thanks also for your prayers for me for Synod just gone. It was a brilliant time, thoroughly enjoyed it, very much appreciated being upheld and encouraged by you as a church family. We've got a long way to go, it seems to me, over these next 15 years or so, but we've had a great start. So do continue to pray for the synodical processes, and I do ask you to pray for this new leadership team that we have in place. We have 5 new archdeacons looking after regions or territories, and I have 2 portfolio archdeacons in place. And we need to pray that as a team we can work together to discern God's mind for our future. One of the great things that has come out of the Fresh Expressions movement across Australia is this new book that I'm about to read from. The book is called Facing the Future, and the chapters have been written by a number of bishops around Australia. And I'd like to read to you a couple of sections because they do relate to our context here in Canberra and Goulburn. Bishop Andrew Curnow writes this: "As Christians, we worship a missionary God, and God's people are a missionary people. We can no longer talk about the church and mission, we can only talk about the mission of the church. With this in mind, we need to think across the various theological traditions, associations and attachments that too easily divide Australian Anglicans and start with our own thinking and feeling about mission. I contend," he writes, "that we need to feel like the disciples on the road to Emmaus, who, responding to their encounter with Jesus, exclaimed, 'Were not our hearts burning within us?' We need, if we are to return the Anglican Church to mission, to have burning hearts for mission. There also needs to be a much more vigorous and robust debate within our church about where we are going and how we respond to the call to be a missionary church. Bishops, clergy and laity will have to show a much greater account of what we are doing, not only to survive but to grow. There is at times a reaction in our church to this approach that verges on making mission appear an unseemly preoccupation of a few and maintains that the task of the church is to be faithful. At the heart of being faithful is being a missionary church." Bishop Andrew is absolutely right. And Bishop Peter from Armidale adds these very sane words. He says, "The perennial challenge for local churches is to move from being a club for those like us to being a place of welcome for others, where we engage in real brotherly and sisterly fellowship, as well as being involved in sacrificial loving fellowship for those who don't necessarily like or not attracted to us." He writes, "My conviction is that only a wholehearted commitment to the biblical gospel of grace, both by the preacher in the pulpit and by congregational members, can create and sustain a fellowship that exists for non-members," to recall William Temple's famous phrase, "actively looks for and is attractive to non-members, is sacrificially loving enough to attract non-members, is confident enough to firstly explain the gospel of God's gracious love in Christ, and then boldly loving enough to call people to turn to God by trusting in Christ, and is engaging enough to keep the congregation from its centrifugal pull into clubism, parochialism, and an unhealthy maintenance mode." So as a diocese, I am calling us across our various traditions to be missional and engaging and loving. And you've demonstrated that you can do that. That was effectively done through Back to Church Sunday. The reports have been wonderful, where people have said that they've invited their friends and their friends have warmly responded to the invitation. Now, to help you in this, I draw your attention again to that little book I wrote called Starting Mission-Shaped Churches, and I've obtained more copies of this little book. It's available free of charge from our office, and you can have as many copies as you wish. Well, thank you for tuning in to StewTube. Get ready for the next instalment around Advent time, and please do pass this information on to your friends. Please do share this information in church and in your small groups. The Lord be with you.